Alright, I'm just going to do a short episode here. I haven't put out one for a little bit. I'm not even actually sure what exactly the episode number is. I think it's like 51 or something. I think the last one I did was 50, so that makes sense. It was a big, wonderful celebration for all of you, and for me especially. If you haven't listened to that, go back for that. The perennial episode at 50. I don't know if that really makes any sense, but it definitely doesn't. Never mind. This is the Tim's 2 Cents podcast. Like I said, I'm just going to do a short episode this week because I'm about to head down. I'm staying with dogs someplace else again tonight. I thought I was going to be having to leave earlier to meet somebody. Thankfully, that didn't happen, so I do have like 15 minutes here to do something. If you listened to this before, and I mean, this is definitely more recently, when I first started doing the podcast, I was kind of just churning out different worldviews or whatever, my take on that, which, now that I think back on it, it's probably bullshit. It's probably a bunch of pretty much useless rambling about things that are already useless rambling. Philosophizing on different philosophies is pretty bland to me, I guess, or it's like I would listen to somebody else talking about it probably just because I enjoy people's opinions on things. I don't know if that's necessarily good. That's probably not a healthy thing to do kind of consistently, to always worry and to take in other people's opinions. I think I did the last episode, or maybe it was 49, about sometimes it's just better to take your own opinions and go with those. Fuck anybody else's. Not exactly, but it was something along those lines, as of just like, you don't necessarily have to worry about defending a position because, well, first, nobody else does. Nobody else really seems to put too much concern into if whatever they're espousing makes any sense at all. Especially the more somebody's kind of rabidly for something, that's the less they're going to make sense about it, probably. If they're like, as long as everybody just did this, then the world would be fine. That person is going to be the one that just makes up all kinds of random shit and all kinds of weird jumps in logic. But then again, I mean, logic, like I'm saying, is also a kind of like a pointless circle in itself. Just justifying something with your own kind of, baseless thinking in the first place doesn't really make it any better. Just because you can logically confirm things in your head, it's still going to have problems with it. At least from anybody else's viewpoint. So don't worry about that shit. Just think stuff. Just think whatever it takes to get done what you want to get done. And that's kind of the crux to everything, is there has to be something you're working towards. It doesn't really work if you just want to kind of exist, because of that, whenever you just want to kind of exist, that's what Reddit is for, and just making opinions on there, and YouTube comments and stuff like that. That's what that's for. Twitter is for that. But if you will have something besides that you're working towards, then you should be using Reddit or Twitter to either gather information for that or to present it to people. You probably shouldn't be using it for much beyond that. It shouldn't be something for wasting time. I do that a lot, just going through Twitter. It should be something for kind of aggregating information, aggregating thoughts, and then also for presenting yourself. Don't get stuck into this, well, I'm just going to engage with people and that's somehow going to create a better value for me. But whatever. Like I said, I'll do a short one. I try to only do these episodes whenever I have something to talk about, or some kind of, not an insight, but a thought that I think is somewhat interesting. That's rarely probably the case with most people listening to this, but again, fuck you, it's my ideas. But I've talked about this before. I've probably talked about it multiple times before, about making sure that the people that, not just the ones you hang out with, but the ones that are there with you every single day, and I don't mean necessarily in a physical sense, although that's going to have more of an impact on you, is if you're around somebody kind of, and you're not able to regulate how much of whatever they're saying gets put into you. Even with somebody texting you, you can just stop looking at them. If you're there physically with them, you don't have earplugs in or something like that, you have to listen to all their bullshit, all day, and everybody is going to mostly talk about bullshit. And that's, at the same time, less important than you might think, and then also more important, because you are the whatever aggregate, or you are the combination of the 5 people that you spend time with, maybe. But you can also, I think if you, unless you're a completely brain dead idiot who just needs to follow what other people do, I think you can get along pretty well by just listening to them and going, oh, okay, that's dumb, but whatever. But I think it is important to, maybe more important than figuring out who you're going to physically be around, is who in your life can you not get out of dealing with. Like, and I don't mean that in a, obviously if you, like, your family, if you're still talking to them, I mean, I don't know why I said it like that. I don't really have any problem with my family. I guess I kind of figure if you're listening to this, you probably have ostracized your family with posting something on Facebook, but, or having some kind of an argument at a family get together. But I think beyond family, beyond someone that you have like an emotional tie with that way, you have to be careful with the people that you let, I don't know, part of the problem with this is I don't really understand the mindset that people like this have. But the people that can't really deal with you not just wanting to waste time with them, like, they don't do anything. So most of their day is go to work, come back, watch Netflix, play video games, read a book, and think about how good that makes them, and how much smarter they are after that than watching Netflix or playing video games. And if you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing something else, they don't, in their mind, like, cause you can just watch Netflix or play video games or read a book anytime. There's not like a prime time to do that. I mean, unless you're talking about how video games or screens or stuff like that are going to make you stay up later, it's going to keep your mind working. There's no like, oh, I don't want to play the video game because I won't be on then, if that makes any sense. For writing or I was never very good at business, but I'm sure for business as well, and getting stuff done and kind of catching like that inspiration, you have to take certain times to just tell people to fuck off. And a lot of people can get that, I think. Most of the people I know can understand that. My family can understand it. Not that I do it to them. I'm not that good a writer. I'm not recognized at all. So I can't be like, no, Mom, I can't come over for Mother's Day. I'm getting things done. But you should be able to do that for pretty much anybody else. And some people do not understand that. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with just themselves being lonely. I can't understand the person that always needs somebody else there. And that's definitely probably a problem with me, because I find the less I hang out with people, the even easier it is for me to hang out with less people. I don't get this kind of buildup of loneliness, that's probably the healthy reaction to isolating yourself. But whenever I isolate myself, it just becomes then easier to be like, well, I definitely don't want to hang out with you then. I don't want to hang out with this other person. I like them more than you. But stay away from anybody that can't do that by themselves, that can't just hang out by themselves, and who, especially the people who bring up how independent they are, because this is also normally the case, is the person like, anytime somebody brings something up, and I'll stick by this, anytime somebody brings anything up about how they're not some way, just assume they are, because it's almost like it's not just conservative politicians that harp on gay marriage who turn out to be sucking dick in a truck stop. It's not just the fat girl who constantly tells you that I haven't eaten anything today. It's not the guy who talks about how men are so evil and then he's online stalking women. It's not just that. It's also just the people who are like, no, I'm a very I'm very much okay with who I am as a person, and I think that anybody who judges what I do is a piece of shit, and people just need to learn how to accept themselves. Regardless of that being a bullshit statement that means nothing at all, that kind of person that feels the need to remind you that they don't need anybody is going to be the person then that is like, well, I've just been lonely recently, and it would be really nice if you could come over and hang out and make me feel better about myself. And it's not an invitation. It's put as an invitation, but it's this sulky, just, why, you're a bad person for not wanting to engage with me while I just wallow in self-pity. It's normally that. It's normally not a blackmailing, obviously, because they can't really force you, but it's, if you ever want to deal with this person again in a civil manner, you have to appease them. That's all you're just appeasing somebody with your presence. And it's like, first, why are you doing this to me? Why are you this kind of lost in your life that you need me around? Specifically me. Maybe you're different. Maybe your friends actually enjoy you being around, but there's no way that anybody should be enjoying my companionship. But I had a point, and this is always the problem when I meant to write things down for this episode, because I was like, it'll be short, I'll just hit these points, then I'll be done. Of course I didn't. Okay, it's not just that I don't understand why they're doing it. Because I kind of do. I kind of understand people just being lonely and just being scared to think with just themselves for the next 6 hours. What I don't get is then the shaming somebody into hanging out with you and then not feeling worse for that. Like, I did that as a kid with my parents, and they'd be like, well, why can't you just play catch with me? And then I was 7, and then I was like, oh yeah, it kind of feels shitty to have somebody who I know doesn't really want to be there right now, and doesn't, not say my parents didn't hang out with me, they did plenty of, but that was the first example. Or think whenever you were in elementary school and you kind of forced your way into a group, and you just say, well, nobody really wants me here, but I'm here anyway. I mean, the activity has to be something enjoyable in and of itself. It can't, like, that at least then makes sense. What doesn't make sense is then the people who are just like, well, you should just hang out. And it's like, I don't want to be there. I mean, you're going to trick yourself that you do. And don't ever put that past people, because that's always what I've done, is I've always been like, well, if I'll go, then they'll understand that they are being stupid and that they don't really get it. And then, oh, wow, maybe they'll even apologize. I've been looking for apologies my whole life from people. I never get them. But don't ever underestimate people's ability to absolve themselves of any wrongdoing or any kind of stupid doing, if that makes sense. Don't underestimate people's willingness to just kind of shut off that part of their head that tells them that they're being emotionally manipulative and not in the usual way of that we just have to be to interact with people, but above and beyond the call of what normal interaction should be. And don't underestimate people's inability to feel shame or embarrassment and then especially, what is it? Everybody just likes to use this word too, because you're being a hypocrite. It's real nice to get somebody in an argument and really, you're being a hypocrite because of this. It's a stupid thing that gets brought up too much, but no one who's being a hypocrite is ever going to give in to being a hypocrite, because they've already made up the kind of justifications in their head as to why they aren't a hypocrite and why they're better than somebody being a hypocrite. But don't be afraid to be a hypocrite. If something works for you, if it's pushing you forward, if it's making you do better things, if it's making you doing greater things, then just do it. Who cares if it's being a hypocrite? Fuck them. People live and die on making justifications in their mind for themselves and for other people. And if you're doing something, if you want to accomplish something, you realize how worthless that is and how just petty that is to be so obsessed with justifying your every single turn to some kind of dumb mental scale that we've completely constructed with our own minds, that we also say are scatterbrained and don't always make sense and are very, very liable to be changed by our emotions. To try to put that up to a mental checkmark list is kind of pointless. It's just masturbation. You're just arguing with yourself, and you're always going to win, so it's not going to help anybody. Alright, here, I need to stop this. I gave you the 15 minutes. Now give me all of your money. No, but you can get me at Baker's Dozen 93 on Twitter. Please check out, as always, Mount Baker Vapor. You can go to tim.town/clouds. Check them out for their different blends of nicotine e-juice. They do have zero nicotine e-juice too, if you want to be a loser about it and just suck on something that tastes like cotton candy for no real reason. But you can get the different blends. You can get the ones with a little bit more throat hit if you like cigarettes, or you can get the ones with more clouds if you like annoying a large amount of people or causing yourself to have an accident in your car. Check them. I mean, they have batteries too. They have tanks. They have pretty much anything you're going to need to vape or get your nicotine fix. They don't sell nicotine gum though, actually, so disregard that last. They do sell the nicotine salts and mixing your own stuff, and then plenty of different premium brands. One of those, they do have their own brand, just an MBV, Mount Baker Vapor brand. I think it's around like $8 for a 30 milliliter. But then they do also, pretty much the only, premium brand I've ever really bought has been the Gwar, which, yes, is based off of the metal band that crucifies different political figures during their concerts, but they do have some pretty good tasting ones. Their tobacco, RY4 or something. Ryu4 is pretty good. They have I had the bottle in here next to me, but I kind of cleaned up my desk. But it's like a melon, I forget, slushy. They all have weird names based off of sounding grotesque, like the whole band Stick is. But again, check them out at tim.town/clouds. Hit them up. It shows me that people are listening, and it gets me a little bit. As always, thank you again for listening, and have a good week, and tell people to fuck off.